So let's say we have a new cost function. 50 plus 5q plus 0.5 q squared. And the first question I'm going to ask is, let's say the price in the market is $30. Well, what's the quantity that each firm sells and the profit level? I remember how we'd start this off. What would be our first step here? Well, we want to use the golden rule, right? So the golden rule says that we want to set marginal cost equal to marginal revenue. And in particular, in competitive markets and firms, marginal revenue equals the price. Because we are going to sell every product, no matter how many we sell, for $30. So when we do so, we always get $30 back for every additional unit sold. So that's marginal revenue. Marginal cost is just the derivative of the cost function, which we've done a million times, it seems. So you take the derivative, 50 goes away, you get 5 plus q. And so we set this equal to our price. And solve for q. We get that the quantity is 25 units. And then we would just want to check the profit. So profit is going to be total revenue minus the cost of 25 units. Total revenue is price times quantity. So 30 times 25 or 750. And the cost of 25 is just when we use q equals 25 in our cost function. 55 times 25 plus 0.5, 25 squared. And if you throw all of this that's in your calculator, you should get 262.5. Or I'm sorry, no, that's the profit. You should get the cost as, where do I have it? It's 487.5. 47.5. And so our profit is 262.5. Positive. So firms are happy here. They're making money. Remember, they don't really want to think about the shutdown then. They think about the shutdown when we're making a negative profit. And that's important to think about when we are losing money. Here, we don't really need to think about it. But I just want to, kind of mention it for the next part, the shutdown. Remember, that means we're producing nothing. And what's our profit if we were to shut down?
Is it the negative fixed costs? Or, I don't know, am I right?
No, you're right. That's good. So if we shut down, we produce nothing. So our revenue is just 0. And if we look at the cost of producing 0, these Q's just all multiply out, or these parts go to 0, multiplied by 0. And we're left with just our fixed cost. In this particular case, it would be 50. So our profit's negative 50, or the negative fixed cost. So if we did get a negative profit, say this was negative 262 or something like that, or any other negative, you would want to consider the shutdown profit. and you want to see which option is better for you. Should we produce and lose, so much money, or should we shut down and lose $50? We want to minimize our losses. So that's going to be our best option, at least right now, to lose the least amount we can if we have to lose the money. Although here we would always produce and not even think about shutting down. But we can kind of summarize the shutdown option. And as we're going to go forward, we're going to find the firm's supply function. So given any price, how much we should produce, putting it into like a function kind of easily to see. But we can do the same thing or think about the same thing with the shutdown. When are we going to shut down? And in particular, who remembers what the shutdown rule was?
Wasn't it at the minimum average cost? If it was below that, then you shut down.
Close. It's minimum average variable cost.
So close.
So shut down if the price is less than minimum average variable. So when we're doing our supply function for this firm, we do want to think about the shutdown option because we want to add that in. Think about maybe we're a firm and we want to have just, an algorithm in the computer that takes the market price and tells everyone else in our firm how much to produce so that nobody has to sit around and calculate anything. Well, we want to add in also this shutdown option because we want to make sure that it makes sense to produce something. So let me sum of this. Okay, and now when we're thinking about minimizing average variable cost, we can just set the marginal cost equal to that. Just like what we did for average cost, talking about like the long run price and quantity, we would just set marginal cost equal to this average variable to find this minimum point. Well, we have our marginal cost as 5 plus Q already. And we haven't found average variable, but the variable cost is the part of our cost function that has the quantity in it. So it's going to be 5Q plus 0.5Q squared. So average variable cost, we just have to divide this by Q. So it's going to be 5 plus 0.5Q. And then just solve for Q. So we can subtract 0.5Q on both sides. And then subtract 5, but we end up, 5 minus 5 just goes to 0. And if we divide by 0.5 on both sides, we just get Q equals 0. What this says is that our average variable cost, the minimum point happens when our quantity is 0. So like that lowest point is on the axis, right? On when Q is 0. But we still need to find the price because, that's what we're going to be comparing the market price to. So we're going to take quantity and we can plug it back into either marginal or average variable cost to find this price. You get the same answer, and this is relatively simple anyway. So the price to shut down is 5, right? 0 plus 5 or 0 here plus 5. And in particular, we're going to produce whenever the price is greater or equal to $5, the shutdown price. And we're going to shut down whenever the price is less than that. Or less than 5, sorry. And when we're thinking about producing, well, what we did before is we really set this marginal cost equal to our price in the market. You know, we said it equal to 30, but no matter what the price is, as long as it's, you know, greater than or equal to 5, we're just going to set it equal to marginal cost and then solve for Q. So, solve for Q, sorry. So let's just do that now with just P for price instead of a number. So really, again, just solving for Q to get this by itself. And that's easy, we can just subtract 5 on both sides. So as long as the price is greater or equal to 5, we plug in that price here, we subtract 5, and that gives us the quantity in for this firm, how much we should produce. Now let's just summarize that. And we have this wiggly to show the two possibilities. And so Q equals just this 5 minus P, or P minus 5, I don't know why I said that wrong. 5 minus, or P minus 5, Jesus. P minus 5 if P is greater or equal to 5, or we produce nothing, 0, if the price is less than 5. So again, this is something we can put in the computer, and at different times of the day or different days, when the price changes in the market, it can spit out a number and tell us how much quantity to produce. Now, we might also ask, well, depending on, you know, different numbers of firms, like what's the market supply? And let's just assume there's 100 firms. This is going to be something that's given to you. So you're not just picking a number, but it'll say, find the market supply when there's 100 firms or something. And this is relatively straightforward. We're going to use capital Q for the market. There's little q's being used for each firm. And each firm, remember, is going to have the same cost and really make the same decisions here. They're going to end up looking basically like the same firm, even though they're separate firms. So every firm is going to make the same decisions based on the price. And all we have to do is multiply our supply up here by the number of firms. So 100 times P minus 5, you know, if price is greater than 5. And then we can technically multiply the next part by 100, but it just stays 0 whenever the price is less than 5. So I can also maybe rewrite this 100p minus 500 when price is greater or equal to 5, 0 if it's less than 5. If you left it like this up here, that's fine. I just wanted to rewrite it here as well. Again, every firm in the market is making the same decision. So they are, you know, every firm is going to sell, if the price was 30, they're going to sell 25 units. So 100 of those firms would sell 100 times that. So this is just for any price in the market. So for firm supply up here, and then market supply down here. Now, another thing I could give you maybe is the market demand. So maybe the market demand is given as QD equals 1660 minus 20p. And so this question, after state this market demand, this has to be given to you. But the question might say, all right, well, what's the price and quantity in the market? So we want to think about this. Looks just like a supply and demand, like we did in chapter 1. Our supply is down here. It's disjointed depending on the price. But what we can do is still set the quantity, this is like QS, equal to QD over here to find that equilibrium. And in particular, I'm just going to take the top part, this 100p minus 500 of that, the supply function, and set it equal to the quantity demanded here. We just are going to have to make sure that the price is high enough. It has to be greater than that $5, which it probably will be. So we set that equal to the quantity demanded. And we solve for price to start out with. So we can add 20p on both sides. We can add 500 on both sides. And that's to divide by 120. So we get the price in the market is $18. And we would then want to find the quantity, so we can plug it into either the supply function or demand. The price is greater than 5, so the firms will be producing. I'll plug it into the quantity supplied. So 1800 minus 500, or 1300. But again, this is for the market, the entire, maybe I'll put QM. So all the firms all together are going to sell 1300, and all the consumers are demanding 1300 units. I can also ask here, well, what quantity will each firm produce and sell for each firm? Can anyone see this? How much would each firm produce?
Would it be 13?
It would be. How'd you get that?
Just the total market supply divided by the number of firms. So 1300 divided by 100.
Yeah, that's right. So you're given there was 100 firms. So this little q can just be the market quantity over those number of firms. So 1300 over 100. You can also do this one other way. So knowing that the price is 18, you can go back to the firm supply function, which is up here. Price is 18, and you can put that here. So 18 minus 5 is also 13. You'll get the same answer either way. Both of those work. So good. Now, the last thing I want to do is just see if they're going to be making profit or not, or how much profit. So let me get a different color. Let's find revenue. It's price times quantity. So 18 times 13. And so this is 234. And the cost of 13 units, you have to go back to, our cost function over here and just plug our 13 in here. 50 plus the cost of 13 units comes out to be 199.5. Just a hint, make sure you show your work on the final and your problem sets, just, because it's easy to plug in something wrong here, but it'd be good for me to see that you just did that rather than didn't do it correctly. So 234 minus 199.5 ends up being 34.5 for profit. Total revenue minus total cost, right? So everyone here is making a positive profit still. We're happy. We aren't going to be thinking about shutting down either here. So, we're not leaving the market either if we could. Can we, though, tell if we're in the long run or the short run here?
I think it's short run
Yeah, why do you think that?
because we have a fixed cost.
Yeah, the 50.
Yeah, so we do have the fixed cost still, and that was like the 50. But even more than that, because sometimes our cost function don't always adjust fast enough for us. But our profit is greater than 0. Remember, in the long run, we'd be making 0 profit. So we can also say that we are in the short run because of this. So just both things are good to know. Okay. So now let's think about what's going to happen in the long run, like if we're going into the long run, excuse me. So what we just saw on the other slide or the other sheet was that every firm is making positive profit. Every firm's making a profit. Well, what that does is that's going to be a signal or, kind of a sign maybe to other firms that maybe are thinking about trying to compete in this market or are doing something similar and might want to like expand what they're doing. They might see us making a positive profit and say, hey, these guys can do it, so can we. So I'm going to come in and enter and compete against them. So a positive profit that's being greater than 0 is going to entice firms to enter. So firms will enter. And well, maybe let me draw this out real quick. I'm going to draw two pictures. The first is going to be the market, and the second is going to be for every firm. So for the market, we have a supply and demand. And this is the entire quantity, which was 1,300. And the price was 18 that we found. Remember, each firm is a price taker. So they're going to take this price of 18, and that's what they have to sell for. They have to sell their product for. Their demand they face is horizontal here. And they make their output decision based on really their marginal cost function. So we find, where setting like marginal cost, equal to the price or marginal revenue. And we get that each firm sells 13 units. But now if firms are entering because we're all making a positive profit, what that changes or what that affects is that's going to affect the market, and in particular, the market supply. The market supply is going to increase with more sellers, more firms. So it's a rightward shift. And when we have a higher supply, our price in the market is going to fall. I didn't give you like a new supply, but our price is going to fall in general. And what that's also going to do is that's going to cause our profits to fall for every firm. So having a lower price means that our revenues are going to fall. We're going to produce less output, and we'll get lower and lower profits. Now, this profit falling, we could also have, profits going low and becoming negative. So we started off making money, but maybe with firms entering, it pushes us into, losing money. And if we're making a negative profit, well, the opposite adjustments are going to happen. Some of these firms that are making negative profits are going to leave. Say, I have better things to do with my time and money and, effort. So they leave, our supply in the market is going to fall, which causes price to rise, and then these profits are going to rise. And remember, this is kind of like a seesaw. Profits go up, and we have all these adjustments that lead to profit going down, and then all these adjustments make profit go up. And so we're going up and down, but eventually we're going to come to a point where we stop moving, we stop adjusting. And that's that long run equilibrium, which we said before was when profit was zero. So we had that we were talking about, firms were making that like positive $34.5. But we know that's going to cause these adjustments. So there's going to be additional firms, and it's going to cause the price to fall and also profits. So in particular, we can figure out this equilibrium, which is what we started talking about today. And so if you're asked about the long run equilibrium, typically we'd want to know what the price is in the long run and also how much each firm is going to sell. And we can find that first by finding the minimum average cost. And again, we do that by finding where marginal cost equals average cost, excuse me. As a reminder, our cost was 50 plus 5q plus 0.5q squared. So our marginal cost we found already, that was 50 plus 5. Or I'm sorry, no, it wasn't. But we did find this before. The 50 goes away. We get the derivative. This is 5 plus q, right? And then for average cost, we just take this whole thing and divide it by q. And using this, we can find that quantity in the long run and use that to find that long run price. So just for color, these 5s here, they're going to cancel each other out. And color. And I want to try to combine like things, so we can subtract 0.5q on both sides. 0.5q, and that equals 50 over q. Multiply each side by q. And then we can also divide each side by 0.5. So we have q squared equals 100 and take the square root on both sides. Our long run quantity is going to be equal to 10. So every firm is going to produce 10 units once we're in the long run. And then to find the price in the long run, we're just going to plug in our 10 either to our marginal cost or our average cost function. I'm going to do it into marginal cost because it's a little bit easier, but again, it doesn't matter. So it's just going to be 5 plus 10 more 15. So as a reminder, what we saw was, sorry, I don't have that here, but well, what we had was that, we were at a point where the firms are all selling this good for $18. They were each selling 13 of them, but they were making a positive profit, which is good for them, but that causes other firms to enter and steal some of that profit. So after we have some adjustments, in the long run, we end up at the point where the price is 15, something less than that original 18, and the quantity is 10. So with the new price and quantity, I'm not going to go through it, but we can calculate the profit, and you would see that the profit is 0 for each firm. So now with this price and quantity, you might be asked about like what's going on in the whole market. So let's say, remember our demand was that we saw before 1620, or 1660, excuse me, minus 20p. So this was given to us earlier. Now, we can use what we just found to find the market quantity in the long run. And in particular, we can plug this long run price into our demand function. So this long run quantities for the market, hence the large Q. And our price was 15 that we found. $15.60. So the market is altogether going to produce 1,360 units or 1,360 units. And so the last question, there's a lot of these like and I can ask you, I might not ask you all of these, but the last question I could ask with that is how many firms are there for in the long run? And we can use a formula that we kind of used already. And this is going to be that the number of firms is just going to equal the quantity in the market over the quantity that each firm sells in the long run here. So in particular, the market quantity we just found is 1,360. And then each firm we found over here is going to sell 10 units. And so there's going to be 136 firms